Welcome back, everyone, to Momentum with McGill, the space where voices come together and find momentum and purpose. I'm your host, McGill Tolliver, and today's conversation centers on a cornerstone of wealth and community, home ownership. We're diving deep into what it means to own a home in Chicago, especially for disinvested neighborhoods. From navigating resources to building generational wealth, we're taking a look at home ownership, the impact, and the empowerment. Joining me today are three incredible guests who embody home ownership momentum. First, we have Bridget McGill, Austin homeowner and entrepreneur, living proof that passion and ownership goes hand in hand. Next, we have Pam Stallings, Vice President of Housing and Financial Empowerment at the Chicago Urban League, bringing insights into programs, advocacy, and access. And finally, we have Phil Beckham III, Managing Partner of P3 Markets, a visionary leader in sustainable development and community wealth building. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Let's get right into the heart of the conversation again on home ownership and the importance of home ownerships for Black Chicagoans. First, I'd like to start with you, Ms. Bridget. What inspired you to pursue home ownership and or work in housing equity?
I grew up in a house, so just home ownership has always been a part of my life. And when I moved from my parents' home and I started living in apartments, I saw the difference. We didn't have freedom. You couldn't do what you wanted to do. Your kids couldn't do what they wanted to do. And I thought, yeah, we're going to have to buy a house. And I knew the value of owning a home and just the freedom that you had in owning a home, coming from a family where my grandfather owned lots of properties, and my mother also purchased her own home with her, my stepfather.
Absolutely. Pam?
And I'm sorry, the question was?
What inspired you to pursue home ownership or work in home equity?
Okay, so my background starts with my first job working in housing. I started off as a credit counselor. It evolved probably in the 2000s at the wake of the crash. And then we started doing foreclosure counseling. So just by being in that industry, it kind of just thrust me into that position of home ownership. So it went from credit counseling to foreclosure counseling, because that's when HUD said, hey, we need to have the same message to people regarding home ownership, so we won't have that foreclosure crisis anymore. So as a result of that, it just kind of blossomed from there. But just helping people, starting off with that budget is just the main thing. Is so simple, but if I could get that across to everybody, then that'd be a great start.
Absolutely. Phil?
Well, I got thrust into home ownership right out of college. Lived with my parents all the way through, and I got home, and my dad said, it's going to be $500 while you're here. And then that month was up. He said, you're going to owe me $1,000 for the next month. And then I finally got the trend. The third month was $1,500. So I realized that what was going on. Yes, there was no rent control there. 3 months, 3 increases. And went out and found my first, it was a condo in Hyde Park. And that was when interest rates were at 12, 13%. And I bought my first place, a 1-bedroom condo, and I didn't understand, my parents owned homes, everyone owned homes. I didn't understand the benefit from them until I finally got the tax benefit, and I understood, and it was my own place. And then when I sold it in 2019, and then I really understood the benefits of the value increase. But that was my thrust into home ownership, and it was not voluntary. it was dad letting me know differently.
Absolutely. And so we'll start with you, Pam, with this question. But tell us what your current role is in terms of housing, or the landscape or industry of housing, home ownership.
Okay, my job title was Vice President of Housing and Financial Empowerment Center, and I work at the Chicago Urban League. And if you just know the brief history of Chicago Urban League, just how it was started, we're one of the biggest urban leagues in the nation, and it started from the Great Migration. And what were the things that Black folks were looking for? They were looking for jobs, they were looking for housing, and they were looking, to education. So they were looking for all three of those things, and Chicago Urban League foster all of that. So what I do in my space as we are a HUD certified housing counseling agency, HUD approved. So what does that mean? That means that all my counselors are certified, so they had to take an exam. And when you take that exam, then you have to cover 6 areas of competency. And once you know all the competencies in and outs, you can counsel on rental, on home buying, debt and credit, as well as post-purchase. And that's another thing that we need to kind of key on. Once we get everybody into these homes, how do we keep them in them homes? So we need to think about not only affordability, but sustaining them. So as counselors, that's what we do. Another part is that wealth building part. So that is something where we talk about budget credit savings. We talk about will and estate planning. We talk about that post-purchase part, sustaining that house. So we're trying to, in my department, we're trying to financially make everybody fit into their own, because I don't spend the same money as you do, okay? My income is not the same. So when we talk about budget and credit counseling, it's not a cookie cutter. So we have those one-on-one conversations. And the best benefit is that all of this is free, because we are HUD certified. We do get funders. We do have funders, and we still need funders in order to keep on supplying that service.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Ms. Bridget?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes.
That was such good information. I was just
Yeah, absolutely.
Taken back from it, yes. Tell us your role in home ownership or working in housing equity.
okay. A lot of years I did work for CHA, and I was a homeownership counselor in the Choose to Own program, and then we transitioned to Housing Choice Partners. I then went to work at the Oak Park Regional Housing Center in the West Cook Homeownership Center, so I've had a lot of experience, and this is how I've been able to just gather a lot of information for people that want to purchase. And as a homeowner, I just had access to a lot of grants and grant information and how to walk myself through purchasing a home, getting a great interest rate. I bought my house in 2009. My interest rate was 4%, and it was during the time that Obama was giving back the $8,000. So it was like, yes, it was a great time. And I'm glad you talked about just keeping the home, because a lot of people purchase homes, but we don't understand making sure that we have the savings so that when that boiler breaks or when you have a flood and you need to get that new hot water tank, we have to make sure people understand putting their homes in a trust, so that if I pass away, my children don't have to worry about going to probate court. They don't have to deal with any of that. They're not uprooted in the house that they've been living in for 16 years. So just understanding, making sure that I understand it, that I can pass the information on, and just owning a home. Just quick story. We had a situation just yesterday. One of my nephews was killed in 2018. So every year my sister has a memorial for him on his birthday at the park, because they came through the park district that's at the corner of our house. So it started raining. And she says, "What am I going to do?" I said, "Just pack the stuff up and bring it to my house." And we did the celebration at my house. Whereas if I had a landlord, I probably couldn't have done that. She had totes, she had food, she had all this sports equipment. So having a home has those benefits as well, where you control everything and nobody can tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's important for you to have the freedom for yourself and your family.
Absolutely. And same question goes to you, Phil.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about the work that you do in terms of supporting home ownership and housing equity.
Sure. So P3 Markets we're a development company. So we build mixed use high rises. And the main ones people see. We're based in Brownsville at the two that are on 43rd Street, right on either side of the Green Line train. So, and those were built with the intent to bring talent back in, because we lose in our neighborhoods. We lose a lot of talent, young talent, because there's no new construction with amenities. So we built those with that intent to have the 25 to 35-year-olds come back or not leave, because we have 2-bedroom, 2-bath with decks. We have workout rooms. We have I'm sorry, I don't want to give it a nice little room to do what they do. We have grills on the deck, just as you would have in South Loop and West Loop. So that's the intent first. The impact that made was, number one, more ridership on CTA, but the infill building within 4 blocks around that development were condos and single family homes. Before we start building, there were approximately 150 vacant lots. Now there are less than 5 left.
Wow.
And that's a 4-year span.
Wow.
And those give the opportunity for home ownership. There are a lot that are 3 flats for rent, but a lot of them are for sale. And what it also does for our clientele, I'm sorry, it gives them an opportunity to grow financially, mature financially, and still stay in their neighborhood.
Right.
So that was, the initial intent my convincing was to tell people, I'm 60 years old. I kept saying, this is not for us. We're building it for a younger group that we want to keep here. Stop thinking about us. I'm not involved in this. I have twin daughters that are 25 and a son that's 28. They don't drive, so they're not us. And you also have to get them in a space where they understand home ownership is great, even though they grew up in a home, and they're grandparents, and we have second homes in Michigan and all that, so they understand it. But they don't understand why you would pay for something for 35 years. That's the same thing. They don't understand why you would be at the same job for 30 years. They think that's insanity. So most of their careers are in their laptops. So to them, I can rent for 2 years in Chicago because I'm moving to Miami next year because I don't want to be in Chicago.
Right.
And their careers go with them. And the pandemic even encouraged that even more. So you have to let them mature before they understand it. Because at 25, 26, they still don't understand, why would I pay for something for 35 years?
Right.
It's the same, they don't own cars, because why would I buy a car when I can take the train, I can take the bus, I don't get parking tickets, I don't have to pay insurance. It makes no sense to them. And once I'm able to convince my group that it's not about us, then you understand, okay, this is what they start with, and let them understand and see how the benefits of it benefit them as they go forward. So that's where we are, and we'll continue. I think our next thing is going to be a few condos to give them options.
Okay.
To actually start buying. Nice. But a lot of things don't make sense, and once I listen to them, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why am I doing some of these things? So,
and talking about that, what are some benefits to home ownership? Why would I want to own a home? And like you said, Phil, why would I want to waste 30, 35 years on this home? What are some benefits to that?
Well, I can tell you the first time, when I got my condo and I turned everything into my accountant, and he said, did you get your statement from your bank? I'm like, what statement? And then it was all the interest I paid. It went from paying Uncle Sam to get money back. I'm like, this is what this is. And then the equity I built up in it, once that was explained, once I saw it. It was always talked about. My parents would always talk about, what equity I have here and there. But once it was actually I saw it and it was mine, especially, if it's not yours, I'm not paying attention. It was my parents. Right. So once I actually saw it and understood it, I'm like, here we go. This is something that is beneficial. And again, it took maturity. It's not something that happens at 22 because you don't get it. But maturity and being exposed to it. I was exposed. Again, it wasn't mine, so I didn't pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
Some benefits would be freedom. And I think she expressed freedom. I always give the example when I'm teaching class. I'm a Prince fan. And I love Purple Rain. So I have a Purple Rain room. So if I wanted to paint my room dark purple,
You could.
I can. But if I was renting, I probably couldn't.
Right.
So just having that freedom. And as he talked about equity, leveraging that equity. A lot of people take money out to put their kids through college. A lot of people take that money out to start a business. So that equity could be leveraged, as well as creating stability. You own a home. Unless you want to move, you got to sell your home. So it creates that stability and building up that neighborhood. And then also legacy in the family, creating that generational wealth, to pass that house on and it's paid in full.
Yes.
And then for someone to take over and just have to pay the taxes and insurance, that's huge.
Wow.
And once we realize that it may not be for us in this generation, but for the next generation, then we'll be on to something. And it's not about us because, we're almost done.
Less time in front of us than do behind.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we have to really think about our next generation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, the stability part is so important because all the years that I worked for housing, one of the things that I saw was a house that had been in a family for 20, 30 years, and then somebody dies, and now everybody in that house, they have nowhere to go. The house is now going into probate. Everybody has to be uprooted. But when we understand the legacy piece and why we need to put the house in a trust and make sure that the proper names are on the house so that if I pass away today, my daughters don't have to be uprooted. We had a situation where my oldest daughter, her apartment caught on fire last May. Well, she didn't have to go to a shelter. She didn't have to try and find housing. She was just able to come back home to her same room, her and her daughter, and now that the weight of that piece is lifted. She doesn't have to worry. And at the time of the fire, the other residents were saying, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? We have nowhere to go. So the stability piece is very huge, and it's always important to have a place to come back to, or as my grandfather used to call it, headquarters.
Yep.
We got to have a place to come when something happens, when the bottom falls out over there. Do we have a place to come to, and we're going to be comfortable? We're going to be okay, and we don't have to be subjected to somebody mistreating us or trying to push us too fast, but we can always land home.
Absolutely. How does home ownership transform communities such as Austin and Bronzeville and Little Village and all of these disadvantaged neighborhoods? How does home ownership help transform those areas?
First, I don't particularly care for the term disadvantage. It's just like calling our neighborhoods communities. They don't call Lincoln Park a community. It's a neighborhood. They only call our neighborhoods communities and disadvantage. I think what the advantage is of a place like Bronzeville, because that's where I live. I raise my kids there, and that's where we're based. Is to watch the growth of families moving in, the growth of families that have been there, and children who are now adults coming back. And to me, here's what stabilizing means to me. When you drive down a street in Bronzeville and you see people outside picking up paper or cutting their grass, or kids playing on the sidewalk, that's stable.
Yep.
We already know what disstable means, being unstable. But when I go back home and I know those kids are going to be out riding their bikes, and I know the same guys are going to be who compete with their grass are going to be out watering their grass, and you're going to smell barbecue smoke. That to me is stabilizing. When you have new homes that are being built or homes that are being sold and new people move in,
Absolutely.
it's part of the fabric. So I just look at it different that way because you can always. I just like to use the same names that other neighborhoods use
Right.
with ours. So
Absolutely.
That's what stabilizing is to me.
Absolutely.
And I definitely agree because when you own something, you take care of it. And I just know you can ride down a block and you can say, okay, they may be renters because that grass is kind of high, you know. So just creating and having that stability, you know your neighbors. When you're a homeowner, when you're a renter, you're not really trying to, I always ask the question in the class, how many of you guys know your neighbors? It's like, like what happened? The neighborhood is somebody I know, somebody I can look after. I know that person for over years.
Right.
And it just, just depends on how long you've been in that neighborhood. But that stability is a real key part to building communities because you know each other, you look out for each other, and it forms that family atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And you guys, everything you said is true, and I would just add that it helps to protect the community. You know, where you live, if you live on a block and everybody has lived on the block 10, 20, 30 years, Ray now, they're not about to come set up shop.
No. They avoid the block.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it helps to protect and keep down unnecessary chaos because people know, not that block. Those people been living over there forever. They're not about to let us come in and just mess up the block. And that's my favorite part. The kids outside, nobody is going to come and try and intrude on that.
Yeah.
What are some obstacles that people are facing in Chicago in terms of home ownership?
Well, right now it's taxes. It's very expensive, and we do know that. But in our class, we talk about that as well. Because just because someone says that you can afford a home, you have to look, okay, in 5 more years, can I afford that home? So we always teach our clients, if you get approved at a certain amount, don't go after that certain amount because what do you have? We teach PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So what always goes up? Taxes and insurance. So, and as a housing counseling agency, we follow you from beginning to end because that's our job is to teach you and to help you, to hold your hand and to guide you. For you to make the best choice because when you're ready. But after you get that pre-approval, which is based on gross, what do we know? We live on net. Yep. So we always try to, make sure our clients understand that and just knowing that you can afford it, but you got to make sure you understand what you can afford. Because just because somebody says I can afford it don't mean I can afford it because you don't know, I may have kids going to college the next year, things change. And, looking at that affordability, is major.
And I think adding to that, what we used to do in our classes too is talk about why the savings is important. And one of the disadvantages is not knowing the tricks, the strategies to help manage the mortgage. For example, when you have a shortage in your escrow because the taxes and insurance may have went up, you can pay the shortage. If you have the money in savings, you can pay the shortage. And that way, whatever that shortage was doesn't get divided into 12 months. And now your monthly payment has gone up by whatever that amount was. But if you're always saving in the house fund, I call it, you can pay the shortage, and that way you can manage it. And that's one of the things I think we just need to add to the education because you can get it, but can you keep it? Making sure you shop around for the best insurance, making sure you know the grant programs. Well, what are the steps to getting this $20,000 towards my purchase? And we have to go to the right programs. And that was a mistake that I made. I knew about the programs, but I went with a lender that didn't work with the grants.
Yeah, there
and
you
because
go.
my credit score was really high, I thought, well, let's just go ahead and do it. I don't know if I was rushing, but I was just tired of just the process. And because of that, I did go to the class to get $20,000 through Lucha, but then I went with a lender that didn't take the grant. So my purchase would have been $20,000 less. So be patient with the process so that you don't miss out on the money.
And then get that education, because we
Yep.
not only do pre, we do post.
Yep.
So even in our post, we have the assessor office come and talk about exemptions. That's another savings. So the education never ends at Chicago Urban League. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because we are going to go through, because our lender partners also offer grants. And then we have, and what we do is we send out that information because we have 2 classes. It's 8 hours. So we do 4 hours one night, 4 hours another night. And then we give you homework, because all of our lender partners have those grants. And we say, okay, we want you guys to look at it. And what have you learned? Because what have you learned equates to, okay, I've done my homework, and not everybody is the same.
Right.
We also have Ida come on. So we have experts come on, because I don't know everything. Programs change. There's so many programs out there. It can be confusing, but if you take your time, so don't say, okay, I'm at a 780 now, so I'm ready. Yeah, but you still need that education, and you need to know how to navigate it. Sometimes grant programs are, have limits, income limits. Sometimes it's territorial. So you have to know the ins and out, and you almost have to go to study for a year. I always tell people, just take the class, because every time you take the class, you learn something different, and then rules change.
Absolutely.
So you really just need to get into, if you're trying to purchase a home. And I always tell people, home may not be for you. Home is not for everybody.
Okay.
Because if you are not able to make those changes and create that savings, that is so key,
Okay.
so key for us to just staying afloat, because things happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Dishwashers.
Right.
There you go.
And I'm just saying minimal dishwashing. That's just happened to me. But, units, air conditioning
Right.
unit. Do you know how much those cost? I do. I do.
Wow.
So you just have to make sure. But through the classes that we provide, we're going to walk you through that. We're going to talk through that. And we're going to get the experts. So we always have someone talk about homeowners insurance, someone talk about life insurance. Then we have an attorney come on and talk about the process, what they do. We have a realtor come on and talk about the process that they have in the home buying process. We also have an inspector come on and talk about his job. And we also talk about how we don't want everybody to know everybody. Because I'm hiring you, and you have to be devoted to me. So we talk about, hey, scams, because those happen. And we really just want to make sure that you understand the process. So just think about it. You're investing. And if you're investing a whole lot of money in the process, don't you think you should know from beginning to end?
Right.
Absolutely.
Give yourself that time. This is not, okay, I'm ready, let's go, because somebody else is rushing you. No, this is your money. So we really talk to our clients and really make sure they understand that process.
It's interesting you brought up how everybody's different. Our first phase 1 is right across the street from a townhouse development, and I think it's 10 townhouses, and they all probably pay between $750 and $850 for them. And most of them have young children. And then just across the street, we have a couple neighbors that have been there for over 50 years, and they own their homes. So property taxes affect them differently. So the goal in stabilizing it was make sure we call Larry Rogers from Cook County and get them out there to make sure that the our neighbors that have been there for a long time are eligible and would sign up for all the property tax exemptions and get money back from 5 years back, so
Yes.
they can stay there. Well, across the street, when we bought the property and rezoned it, their property value went up $200,000. Well, they were happy because now Uncle Phil just paid for their kids who are 7, 8, 9 years old their college. So two different aspects of where they look at property values and appraisals, and how they look at how it affects them. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one thing as a developer, wanting to be conscious of how you impact the neighborhood, and how you can take some steps to make sure that everyone still gets to enjoy what's coming.
Absolutely. How can residents tap into grants and workshops or community support when purchasing their first home, or needing that financial assistance with purchasing homes?
All they need to do is call.
Right back to you.
All they need to do is to call Chicago Urban League. We constantly update our information, but we partner with lenders, and they have grants, and there's different kinds of grants. We partner with IDA, the state. They have grants, but you have to go through the lenders that participate in their program. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because sometimes people think that, oh, okay, I could just get that grant. But if they're not a participant, then you can also layer grants like a cake. But everybody has to play nice and well with each other, meaning that, nobody wants to be third, but, somebody's got to be third if we want that deal to make it, go through. So there are different grants through the city as well. So I'm not going to name them all, because I'm going to forget one of them. And it's like, oh, I forgot this one. So what I would say is to definitely get in our class. We have a home buying workshop every month. And it is, so prepare yourself. It's from 6 to 10, and I know it's late. But we are on it because you're going to need it. And you just don't listen to one person. It's like 4 people a night to make, so you can break up the monotony, and it's like you're not hearing wah, 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 wah. So we make sure, that it's not only entertaining, but it's relevant, it's fresh, it's new. You're getting it from the experts. You're not just getting it from one person. And we also have referral services. So we just don't recommend one person. We have a host of people that we can refer you to, because not everybody is the same.
Absolutely.
And if you could just add for our viewers why the layering is important and what the difference that makes at the closing table.
Wow, you can walk away from the table owing nothing. And layering is so important because it depends on your income.
Okay.
But the savings is just phenomenal. I mean, we've heard of people, I haven't heard that many people getting checks back, but what they do is they don't give you the money back, but they'll put it on your principal. So that's very important. And you just don't understand and know how many years that can take off of that interest. So we talk about, if you pay a little extra, we talk about when you get that refund check, what do you do if you've paid too much, into, your mortgage or something. When you get that check, what do? You put it back into that house, or you put it into savings, because you're going to need it. Definitely.
Well, my grant program was my dad giving me back that $3,000 for my down payment. So he gave it back to me for that. So that one, I don't know if that was still around.
What is some advice for homeowners in terms of maintaining and sustaining their homes? I know you guys talked a lot about that. What are some avenues or advice for maintaining and sustaining your home?
Well, the savings would be the first thing that I would say. Is make sure you are keeping up with your savings, and you're keeping up with what's happening with the mortgage. What's going to the principal, what's going to the insurance, what's going to the taxes, so that when you have an increase, you know why. You know, what in my neighborhood happened. We just got a new Starbucks in our neighborhood. So now my taxes going up. Well, yes, it is going to go up. And keeping abreast of what's happening in your community so you're not blindsided when a increase happens. Making sure that you are able to keep your grass cut. Making sure that you have what you need as far as great insurance. My house caught on fire December 2015. It took us an entire year to get back in the house, but we had our insurance put us in a condo in Oak Park, but you still have to maintain, you still got to pay your mortgage, even when you are out of your house. So just understanding that, you know, I have to keep my grass cut. You know, you should have a project. I always have a project every summer. You know, what am I going to do this summer? You know, because if my grandfather would always say, if the doorknob is shaking, tighten it up before it falls off. Yep. Don't just let it fall off. So you have to keep up with your property so that it's well maintained. You know, your grass cut, shoveling your snow. You know, when something breaks down, don't wait until it's just completely done. Like she said about the furnace, if you hear something going on, or, you know, check it out. Right. You know, have somebody come in to look at it before it's a really huge problem. But you have to pay attention to your property. Yeah.
Those are things that you know, watched. My dad always said, this is no different than your body. So you have, you know, there were always things that automatically happen in spring that you didn't have to call. The people who were responsible for the HVAC, they were out in certain times of the year. Roof, same thing. You know, you got a 35-year on the roof, but that doesn't mean it needs to be checked. Your gutters, everything on that house has to be maintained just as it would you. And there was a schedule. You know, my dad, my uncles always had a schedule and what was supposed to be done. Of course, we did take it, you know, cut the grass and all of that, but who cleans the gutters? When are those taken care of? But the maintenance from outside that comes in that takes care of, you know, making sure HVAC is right, making sure plumbing is on point. You know, those are things that are added into how much it costs to maintain your home. You may have a mortgage, you may have insurance, but you have $500 or $1,000 a quarter that you have to use to maintain the home. And those are things, and I have to say one thing about the savings. So we were never we were taught in school about savings. We were taught in our family about using life insurance policies and annuities for put money because savings gets taxed. So your job was always to keep as much as you can and using the tax code for it. So to this day, it was always put money in that you can borrow from it at tax-free and pay whatever you need to on that side. So, and it's still, my kids, you know, they came home and open up a savings account. No, not at all. Here's what we do, and here's where your money goes, and this is how it works. But those things about maintaining a house, you know, it's always that part. In our insurance company, the insurance policies that we have on the homes are also part of that cost. And then you make sure the ones that you get are right, you can write off. Everything. The whole goal is to write it off to keep money, keep it.
And that is tax strategy at its best. But at Chicago Urban League, we have that post-purchase counseling as well as those webinars and workshops. If you attend, you will get information on weatherization, tax exemptions like I shared earlier, weatherization. And then another thing we got to think about is disaster relief. And, you know, as many times as I post, we're going to have this, we get like maybe 1 or 2 people. And this is so important because guess what? Our basements are flooding.
Yep.
And nobody knows what to do, but we're going to tell you what to do, but nobody comes. So what we got to do is just educate our community just on at least once a year. You know, my husband and I, once a year, we do it. Where we talk to our insurance agent. I want to make sure we have enough coverage.
Absolutely.
You know, because when we add things, and then she'll say, hey, well, you didn't tell me about that you guys did this. Oh, you know, we're going to increase this. You know, I want to make sure, you know, if the house burned down, when we rebuild it, everything is intact. So you got to do that once a year. But these little tips and tidbits will save you so much money. We talk about, gardening, tips on gardening, and just sustaining in that home. We give you a summer, fall, winter, a maintenance sheet. Then we tell you the longevity, the lifetime of a refrigerator. Those are the things you need to keep intact, because when you talk about, year one, you still have to plan. Any minute now, how after we finish paying for our car, how everything always, I get it better than that. The phone, as soon as you finish paying for that phone,
it starts going on the blink.
It's just crazy. So what we do is we just try to prepare you for things that happen that, you may not foresee. But just that maintenance piece is so key in keeping things up to date.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add to what Phil said, the life insurance policies, that would be a great show, because when we understand how life insurance really is supposed to work, it's for life. It's not just so we can bury Big Mama. It's life insurance, and how whole life policies that earn cash value is how we don't have to go to the bank for things. We really basically create our own bank. So if you have whole life policies, $1 million, now your family has just $3 million just in life insurance plus your property value.
Right.
So that whole life insurance is so key in being able to do other things in the home. So that would be a great show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's so great to say, because that's why we added that life insurance piece to it, because we want to tell you that you can do more, and it's just not for burial. And if I can just tell, I talk to my kids, you need to start that. So at age 25, and my daughter purchased her house at 25, but just understanding that, because I said, okay, how much are you going to rent? Do you know how much rent costs opposed to how much your mortgage is going to cost? For her, it was more beneficial to just go ahead on and purchase the home. But if we can tell our kids, the earlier you start that insurance policy, the better off you will be. So there's just so much information out there, and it's free. And we do tell you all of this in our home buying class. So you not only get home buying tips, you get life tips, which is so great, because it's like, wow, I didn't know I was going to learn that much more, and that it is just much more than just to saving to buy a house. It's much more to buying a home than just saving and getting that credit score.
Yes.
So we talk to you and tell you about that in our class.
Absolutely. How important is home ownership in terms of your own personal legacy?
Well, I think I covered it. I mean, I have 2 children, I have 2 grandchildren, and I just never wanted to be in a situation if something happened to me, my children and their children would have to be uprooted. We have a place for them to come back to. We have a play set in our backyard. So my grandson is not going to the park every day. You are going to go and play on those 2 slides, those 2 swings, and that kick bar or whatever that thing is, and it's the freedom that we have for them to just do what they want to do. My granddaughter likes to sit on the porch and play with her tablet, and it's just a freedom for me. And because my mother had property, my grandfather had property, excuse me, I always understood that home ownership was me just being able to do my own thing.
Absolutely.
Home ownership for me, I've been in the industry for 28 years. So I hope in my household that my kids have got some gems of me teaching this. So I think they kind of know what the legacy means. So right now, my 2 oldest daughters, they have homes. And my 2 sons, one was living at home with me, but he's saving. So the goal is to come home, save, get a house. And my daughter did just that. After she got her master's, got a house. My daughter got married, got a house. So far, so good. So 2 down, 2 more to go. But I grew up in a household, so I know what it took to keep up a house. The maintenance, of the house. I saw my mother, keep the house. I don't know what it is to live in an apartment other than when I was in college. But just knowing that house that gives you that stability, you have that freedom. Like I said, I need that purple rain room. Just having all of that, knowing that it's mine, and then knowing that, hey, I can pass this on. It means a lot.
So it is always been a part of our legacy. My grandfather built probably 85 homes in Morgan Park before Morgan Park was annexed to Chicago. We owned those homes until probably the 80s. Have homes now, but it was always taught that this is not for you. This is not for your kids. This is for the kids you don't know, that you'll never meet.
Wow.
That's what it's always been about. I have the on my shoulders is to build a home because it's been done 3 times. So that's coming along. But that's part of what a man is supposed to do and a dad is supposed to do. That's what I saw, and I was told probably twice, and I didn't need to hear it because I saw it. So that's just what we're supposed to do, and what legacy was always taught to us is what you leave when you're dead. It has nothing to do with you while you're living, because whatever you do now is supposed to be for 35, 50, 100 years from now, and that's what you live with, and that's what we were told, my brother and I, and that's what we are now. My grandfather left things now that my kids benefit from. He never met them, but that's the way it's supposed to be. So I get into a lot of conversations about legacy, and I'm like, stop, no, this is not for you. This is not for your kids. This is for your great-great-grandkids. Yes. And when we start thinking more of not me, then we're better off, because I think a lot of times we're worried about how we get past today, when a little bit should be put aside for when you're not here and not for you. I was given, when I was 13, my dad gave me a note in an envelope that was from the same note his dad gave him. And it said, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Here's the first thing you do. Do not say anything to anybody. Call the attorney, call the insurance company, go to the bank with the safe deposit key, take everything out, don't say a word. Once I got down to the bottom of the list, it said, now you've done everything. If you want to cry, go ahead. Wow. But move on. So death is just part of it. And my uncles always said, as a man, you're born, and then there are gaps, hash marks, and what have you done in those hash marks? Because the last one's coming up.
Absolutely.
So resting in peace means you can rest in peace because you've done all you could do to take care of the kids you'll never meet. Wow. So that's what this is all about. Homeownership is real basic. And, it's I don't know where it fell off, but, everybody I appreciate the programs at Urban League, and you say when people show up, you have a few, and if it doesn't change, the people that do know will continue to grow.
Absolutely.
And the ones that don't, I haven't ever been the one to slow the train down, to get off the train, to go knock on somebody's door, to wake them up and say, hey, come on. No, the ones who are running after the train, reaching out, I'll reach out and grab them. The ones who are at home stay asleep. It's okay. It's okay. There's always a space for you, someplace.
Absolutely.
But not on my block.
Absolutely. As we come to a close, what's your call to action to politicians if watching this, and or advice to people that are watching this in terms of home ownership, programs to support homeowners? What would be your call to action?
I would just have to agree with our specialist here is to make sure they get the information and to understand what Phil said, and I really like that. This is for the children that I don't even know yet. When I think about that, my grandfather doesn't know my grandchildren.
Great game.
But when the Bible says leaving an inheritance to your children's children, it's not always just the physical property, but it's the information. It's the knowledge that we have to pass. So that would be the thing, is to make sure people understand the importance of it, all the things we talked about, the stability, what it does for the neighborhood and why we need the correct information.
I would like to add, in our post-purchase, we talk about neighboring. And as we do our neighboring, we're also including our legislators. So that means get to know your alderman, they have office hours. Not only that, get to know your senator. Make sure they know who you are. We talk about that advocacy part of home ownership. I pay taxes. So you need to see me. You need to know me. Have that part also added in there. Start that block club. That's so important. And that's part of neighboring, because if I'm part of a block club, then I know my neighbors. Absolutely. So that call to action is to not only get educated, but also advocate for yourself. And knowing how to do that is where the knowledge is.
And I just want to add real quick before you go, Phil. Sure. Knowing your alderman, a lot of times our aldermans, and this is how I found out about different programs where it might be $500 or $1,000 for people that live in this community for this, or they have roofing programs or different programs. But if you don't go into your alderman office, then the alderman is going to give it to who? The people they want to give it to. Don't get mad.
That's right. It's finding out.
You have to go and get the information. So go into, the places that are in your neighborhood so you can have access to what may not be so publicly known.
Yeah, I've never looked at elected officials as a key to anything. What I've always and what I've watched, you're responsible for your home, where you live, maybe an apartment or wherever, and then you take care of that, and then you work with your neighbors, and then you work with your block, and as those people and that connectivity starts, the tool is your elected official. Now, come on to our block club, and we're going to talk about the things that are affecting our block, positive or negatively.
Right, because we vote.
Exactly, and they show up. Man, our block club was very strong, is very strong, and as long as they hear collectively what your needs are, or and even things that they can be better, they can use the tools, because if you never meet them and you never talk to them, you get what you get.
Yeah.
Right.
They work for you, but it's also your job to work on your neighborhood. Make sure your neighborhood say, hey, we don't have enough garbage cans, or these are okay. Well, next block club meeting, we'll invite the alderman with an agenda and send it to them, and they respond because they see what is needed. Of course they can go by block, drive every block. Still doesn't have the effect. It ultimately is your responsibility in wherever you live to make sure that you connect, to make sure your home, apartment, whatever, is getting everything it needs. And that's done collectively with your neighborhood. Again, neighborhoods in Lincoln Park, they drive through, look how nice it is. Same with the schools. But I can guarantee you, when you go to a school PTA, it's 10,000 parents there.
Yep.
Exactly.
Whereas when you don't, again, you are the one that affects change in your own home. And that goes on with the blocks, the schools, the neighborhood, all of that. So I never put the onus on elected officials. The onus is on us to use them as a tool. You give them, here's where we are. And then they bring out all the tools that they know are there. And sometimes you do the research and find tools that they don't know are there, which is fine, because they can implement them. So I don't get upset. I just, move on and push forward to get it done collectively.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for your insight.
Thank you.
Yes. Home ownership isn't just about property, but it's about pride, legacy, and possibility. Today's conversation reminded us that when our communities gain access to housing, they gain the ability to shape their futures. Thank you to Pam, Phil, and Bridget for sharing their journeys, their expertise, and knowledge. And thank you all for joining us today on Momentum with Markell. Until next time, keep pushing, keep building, and keep the momentum. Peace, peace.